Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Mandy Johnson. I am the co-chair of the Institute of Fundraising South East and London region, and that is the first time I've said that, and I'm really proud to say that. So I also have another beautiful co-chair over there who is Juliet Ellis, and hopefully we are flying the flag for people sharing positions, which I think people should do more of in the charity sector. If you haven't heard of the Institute of Fundraising South East and London region, we are a group of volunteers who do all of this out of the passion for people like you who raise money for amazing causes. We believe in promoting fundraising to the highest standards via training, networking and information. And our mission is to create an environment and understanding for London's fundraisers to excel. And South East, we did merge, I remember that. People who are in the committee have got please speak to me on their badge, but if you could all stand up and give me a wave. We really do want to speak to you, otherwise we just end up talking to each other and we see quite a lot of each other, and we are here for you, so please do come and say hello to us. We also have tried to force anyone who would take one to wear an animal sticker, so if you have nothing else to say, just come and ask us why we chose that animal at the end. If you are a member of the Institute of Fundraising, could you put your hand up, please? Wow, good turnout, guys. And if you're not a member of the Institute of Fundraising, please could you put your hand up? Great, that's quite a good split. So I'm delighted to welcome all of you. If you're a member, you're very welcome. If you're not a member, you probably should be. Just so you know, if you are a member, you get these events cheaper, and we do this sort of event every single month. And it costs less than £9 a month, which is pretty much nowadays the price of a pint in London, so join the IOF. Just to remind you, the hashtag for tonight is hashtag IOF Thursday, which is on the wall. If you need Wi-Fi, the password is liftoff with an exclamation mark, and it's written over there on the wall. Jonathan's, what's it called, at Twitter.
At Partnerships HQ.
Is at Partnerships HQ. So tweet like mad, because I love Twitter and I'd love to see lots of tweets about tonight. And I am going to hand over to one of our awesome committee members, Clark, who's going to tell you a little bit about the training that we do.
Thank you, Mandy. Good evening, everyone. My name is Clark Hussain, and in my day job, I'm head of major gifts at Orphans in Need. But I also volunteer at Institute of Fundraising, and I sit in the committee and look after with my boss, Pasco Ali, the training for South Eastern London. So looking at a full house of passionate fundraisers keen to learn about fundraising, especially for corporates, really reminds me of a quote of an American writer who said that the capacity to learn is a gift, ability to learn is a skill, and willingness to learn is a choice. As a committee member, I really would like to take this opportunity to appreciate your choice you have made today. You could have been at home with your families, but you decided to make that choice to come here and to learn. And I really appreciate, because in my first session with my mentor, he said that the only difference between a great fundraiser and a good fundraiser is that the great fundraiser simply knows the more. So you are here to learn more, so we really appreciate that. With that note, that shows us that fundraisers are passionate about learning as well. Last year, we delivered only 24 introduction to fundraising trainings. But this year, we have booked 36 trainings for 2019. And not just that, there was on demand, we have also arranged GDPR training, which our lovely Mark is delivering, which is fully booked for February, but we have another one coming up in June. So if you or your team members need to learn about GDPR, please do that book through our Institute of Fundraising website. So for Introduction of Fundraising is a course which is for fundraisers who are in a role under 6 months, or they are new to the sector, or they are, I can speak, or they want to learn, they want to join the sector. So Introduction to Fundraising course is available on Institute of Fundraising website. So please do introduce that to your colleagues, to the new fundraisers or people you know of, those who are interested to come in our sector. So I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the evening. Thank you very much.
nearly at the Jonathan time, but before we get there, another one of my lovely committee members, Emily, would just like to say a few words about our mentoring.
I'm also just seeing if there's many empty seats for latecomers as well. So is this back on?
Yeah.
You all hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Hello, I'm Emily. I'm one of the committee members for the London and South East Committee, South East and London Committee. I don't know if any of you have heard about our mentoring scheme, which is for fundraisers who are quite early on in their fundraising career. The scheme at the moment is actually on pause. We're just reviewing it, and we're going to go out to consultation to our members. So we're really keen to hear what the needs are for sort of mentoring or befriending or buddying scheme, any of those things. So at the moment the scheme is on hold, as I've just said, but we very much want to hear from you guys about what you want, what you need. So come and find me afterwards. I'm wearing a yellow skirt if you need to spot me. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Just so you know, the reason the tickets for this event are so cheap is because we have two amazing sponsors. One of them is an organisation called Zafo, which is worth Googling if you want to do any raffles or lotteries, and the other is Eden Brown. So is it Steve who's going to come and say hello, or Leanne? Okay, so two people that everyone in the room needs to know are Leanne and Steve. Steve, do you want to give us a wave? So Eden Brown is a recruitment agency. If you want to change jobs or hire anyone, talk to them. However, if you also want free drinks, they normally bring a corporate credit card. So definitely go and speak to them afterwards. And I'm going to hand over to Leanne.
Thank you. I won't keep you very long because I know we're keen to hear what Jonathan's got to say this evening. My name is Leanne Roberts. I head up the regional charity division here and cover the London and the regions. I'm really pleased to be here this evening, and what a great crowd we've got so far. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Jonathan Andrews, who's going to speak to us today about the corporate partnerships. If you don't know, Jonathan is a corporate and charity partnership specialist with over 19 years experience. He's led successful teams at Alzheimer Society, Age UK, Action for Children and Unilever. At Alzheimer Society, his team increased fundraising income from 4 million to 60 million and has secured national partnerships with BT, Bupa, Credit Suisse and Santander. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Jonathan. If you want to come and speak to me and Stephen, we'll be around for the rest of the evening, but enjoy the talk. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So thank you to Leanne for that lovely introduction. And thank you also to the sponsors this evening, so Eden Brown, and thank you to the Institute for Fundraising, South East and London group for inviting me along to talk to you this evening. And also, you know, more than anything, thank you for coming along and showing up and not being with your families or your friends and showing up to this fundraising talk. And also thank you for singing me happy birthday. I'm certainly not, as you can tell, 30 years old. Yes, from now on, this is my second day as a half centurion. So it's a real privilege for me to be here with you. So I guess that means probably by this age, hopefully I've got some stuff that I can share with you because I've got some experience to be able to share. And just reflecting on it, just being here for me is, you know, such a touching thing to have, and to be asked to come along and to be here with you. It feels very much like being with my bigger family, because, you know, we're all fundraisers together, and I was very much a part of this committee, and it's wonderful to see the training, you know, thriving, and great to see so many of you here tonight. But also, this is a really poignant area for me. So one of the things that I've had the privilege of doing, was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time, but isn't that what fundraising success is so often about, right? Like you guys being in the right place at the right time, is hopefully tonight, hopefully you're going to say that to me later on, so I was involved with a guy called Ken Deeks, who is now Ken Deeks CBE, who founded an event called Byte Night with me. Has anybody heard of Byte Night? The fundraising event. So it's a fundraising event that Action for Children run, and we created it over 15 years ago, and it's now raised over £9 million. And it's called Byte Night because it's spelled B-Y-T-E, and it's all about the IT industry helping young people leaving care and avoiding becoming homeless. So why is that so important? It was actually the first sleep out that we did, and it was before all the other sleep outs. Now everybody else is doing it, right? Everybody's sleeping out now. Have you seen that? So it was the first sleep out we did on Finsbury Square across the road. So I remember it. So it was Graham Norton was there and Jenny Aguilar. That was how we got people along. So yeah, I was in the right place at the right time to hopefully change the world in some way. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about walking with giants. And also I'm going to talk to you about, therefore then, using that metaphor about how it is that you can create more successful corporate partnerships. Is that what you all came here for? Can I just check? Is that all match your expectations? Good, so we can crack on with that. I want to start by talking about a moment. And the thing is, I do quite a bit of speaking, but actually in truth, I've still got butterflies. I still get really nervous, and thank heavens for that. I checked, so I've got one of these things that measures my heart rate. Has anybody else got heart rate monitors in the room? So it was at 127 before I got up here. So my heart's going pretty fast right now. So, and there was another time when my heart was going quite fast, because I had one of these meetings. I was working recently with Tommy's, the baby charity. Has anybody heard of them? Yeah, we know Tommy's not well. So yeah, so Tommy's, and they're an amazing charity preventing baby loss during pregnancy and at birth. And we had a meeting with one of these giants. I can't name it who, because obviously I need to respect confidentiality, but we were in a room with one of these giants, one of these ones that we all name, one of these corporate giants. And I remember sitting in the room. Well, first of all, it was so hard to get the meeting in the first place. Is it hard to get corporate meetings sometimes? Yeah, who finds it hard to sometimes get corporate meetings? Yeah? And the rest of you, either, is it easy? Or you've just not got any yet, or I want to meet the people that didn't put their hands up, because so sometimes it's really hard to get corporate meetings, and especially I think with the big guys, because these people are busy and they really needed chasing down. We chased them down. I probably called them about 5 times, sent them about 7 emails, sent them 5 different sets of addresses, of dates when we were available. We managed to secure a meeting, and then what happened was we were then taken through to their big meeting room. And I had my colleagues there from Tommy's, so I was the interim head of corporate partnerships at the time, to give you a bit of context of Tommy's. And we're in with this big company, and I had some really esteemed colleagues with me. So I had the marketing director, who's called Kate, and the fundraising director was called Caroline. Really awesome people with me, thank heavens. But then I walked in and I just saw that there were 7 people from the company there. And I really, I could really then feel my heart rate going up, and I was thinking, oh my God. It's a corporate giant. I mean, this company, to give you a bit of a sense of this, I reckon they're about 400 times the size of Tommy's, right? So they're, Tommy's at 8 million turnover. So this company is really, really enormous. They've got about 7 other people. If you're doing maths might be, they're a couple of billion, you think. We don't Western, yeah? It's a couple of billion. And anyway, so I can feel the sort of the beads of sweat gathering on my forehead. And because one of the reasons is that I've got this room full of all women, right? So the 2 people from Tommy's and the 7 people from this company, all women. And I'm now about to pitch to them a presentation about pregnancy. And I'm the only man in the room. So I'm thinking, oh my God. So, and I will leave the story like a cliffhanger at that point. And we're going to come back to it in a moment, because I'm going to tell you what happened. But like I said, my beats per minute was probably around about 127, going a bit like my heart is now. So I'm going to talk to you more about stuff like that, where we are in charities and sometimes we feel that the scenario looks like this. This is the challenge I think sometimes it feels like we're up against. Does this resonate for anybody? Yeah? Do you identify with this? Yeah, now, obviously some of the things we're going to talk about tonight is the fact that there's an element of this, which you hopefully get, is that this isn't necessarily the reality. Right? They aren't giants like that, and we're not short and coming up to their ankles with a loudhailer. But actually, this is exactly the kind of scenario it feels like. This is the challenge we're up against, folks. Because when I'm sat in a charity and I've got the pressure of being, the corporate partnerships manager or the head of corporate or the fundraising director or the CEO, in truth, I've got all this pressure loading on my shoulders, which says, I've got this really big target that I've got to hit this financial year. Anybody resonate with that? Yeah? So, or I've got to get 4 partnerships worth, 25k or 50k or 100k, during the year. And this is all pressure on my shoulders. And then when I think about going out and creating the partnerships with companies, actually, in truth, I take a look at their brands and I look at their resources and I think about their really, swanky, I did say swanky, by the way, swanky, they're really swanky, gorgeous, expensive offices, and just how many people they've got on their restaurants. I mean, their restaurants are to die for. And, it's like, I just think, well, how would they possibly take a meeting with me seriously? Because I'm just from this little old charity, and this is the pressure that comes on me. Why would they want to form a partnership with me? And therefore then the temptation I have is, rather than going in there and creating something truly amazing, what I do is I decide, actually, I think I'm not going to call them up. I think I'm going to send them an email instead. Has anybody ever decided that they're going to call up a company and they walked into work and they're feeling all brave and excited, and then you think, oh, hang on a minute, I'll just send them an email. Anybody ever done that? Because I have, yeah? All the other people in the room, you will send an email at one stage. So, or, rather than sending them an email, when we actually do manage to get a meeting with them, rather than pitching them something really amazing, what we do is we ask them for a bit of a handout, or ask them for a donation. Has anybody ever done that? Either you've asked for money rather than offering them a great opportunity. Yeah, so I've done that too. So this is the challenge I think we face. Because actually when we think about companies and we think about these really enormous companies, like Sainsbury's, like Tesco, like HSBC, like Barclays, all the ones that we can so readily name, and that our CEOs so often say, hey, if you thought about creating a partnership with HSBC or Barclays or there's that new bank, isn't it? Metro Bank, you could go for them. Hardly anybody approaching them, and actually the truth is we know that the queue for Metro Bank is really, really long. Yeah, so it's daunting and it's scary. So, I'm not going to stay on this side, just so you know, but this is the challenge we're facing. So, what I'm going to talk you through tonight is how we can shift this. How we can shift this. And I think one of the shifts is actually, partly, as you can imagine, to take companies off of that pedestal that we put them on. Yeah? We've got to stop seeing them as this untouchable, corporate, besooted human beings, and actually people that we can connect with. That's number one. But number two is, how can we make ourselves giant too? So really about how can you find the giant within you? How can you find the giant within your charity? But also how can you find the way to connect to companies? Is that all making sense so far, folks? So to simplify it, I've used circles. So this is my very, very complex diagram, as you can imagine. I'm calling these the 3 circles of influence, because actually if I'm in my role as head of corporate, or corporate partnerships manager, then actually there's 3 things I can influence to actually improve how it is that I'm creating corporate partnerships. Number 1, I can influence what I'm doing and how it is that I'm being. And that's the first place to start. I'm at the centre of the circle and you're at the centre of the circle. And that's the first one that needs taking care of. And actually in truth, if you do that, you're gonna, you do some great stuff, which I'm going to talk about, then you will dramatically increase your results. And I know that you're those kind of people because you're showing up tonight. So you're already working on you, right? You got that, folks, yeah? Then, obviously we have to do that next challenging thing, which is we need to work on the rest of the organisation. So I've got some bad news for you folks, which is that we're going to have to work with the rest of the organisation. But that is just the reality, and I'm going to talk about that too. Even whether you like it or not, I'm going to talk about that because it's essential. And then lastly, we need to think about the company and about thinking about them in a different way and seeing them in a different way and how is it we can interact with them. So what I'm going to do is show you 2 techniques for enhancing how you work on you, your charity and your company. If you put them all together in a really sort of corporate partnerships magic cocktail, then I recommend and I forecast that your corporate partnerships results will improve dramatically, albeit you do need to do it for more than a week. Yeah? So you do need to do it, the key bit is do it sustainably. Is that all making sense? So, any questions so far? Or should I just crack on? We're going to do questions in there. Right, okay. So, the first one, and to be honest, this is the one that is knocking me about the head and is so on our agendas all the time at the moment. This is the one that just keeps coming up. And this is probably some of the freshest content that we've got and that I'm going to share with you tonight. So this is about as brand new as it gets from us. So I'm sharing with you all of our gems, I hope. So really, one of the biggest single things we recommend you could do to significantly increase your corporate partnerships is that you create your powerful partnership product. Yeah? Does that make sense, folks? So we've got other names for it. Sometimes we call it, maybe if you're in marketing, you might call it something like your value proposition or your partnership proposition. But in this product is all the amazing things packed in there in a beautiful package that's really attractive to companies, so that then you are a much more tantalising and exciting charity to work with. So, what is in there, Jonathan, I hear you ask? You ask, what is in there? Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to tell you. Well, one of the things that's going to happen is in that package, so in that product, you're going to put urgency. And this is one of the challenges I think that we have as corporate fundraisers, is it's quite hard to introduce urgency to prospects. Because one of the things I find is the companies, the charities that we talk to, is often they're having great conversations with corporate prospects, but they feel like they're not necessarily going anywhere because there's not a real sense of urgency in that conversation. Does that make sense, folks? Does anybody identify with that? Kind of, you're quite good at doing the first bit of wooing them and getting the interest, but actually then that sort of bit of saying, well, now can we actually agree a partnership and get a signed agreement? Well, that's a totally different level. So one of the things we really recommend that you put into your product, and your product, by the way, is probably going to look a bit like a really amazing presentation with some add-ons, right? But one of the things you put in there is you put in urgent. So one of the things we're suggesting is you give yourselves a deadline, yeah? Because after all, if you think about some of the causes that you've got in here, you know, from like your cause from China Concern, or your cause from the City Mission, these are incredible missions that you're on. And in truth, these children being born in China who are disabled and being neglected, or these families living in poverty, they should not wait any longer. They must not wait any longer. And why are we letting them wait why are we going to stand by and witness it? So actually what we need to show to companies is we need to put a deadline down. Even if that's a question of us actually writing that deadline. Because we need to say to companies, you know, this bus called the Corporate Partnerships Excitement is drawing into the station. It's an incredible opportunity, but we need you to know that the bus is going to pull away from the bus station at some time. And if you're not on it, you're going to miss out. So we've got to put urgency in there. Did we get the urgency there? Did I raise the urgency? Okay, good. I think I'm now on about 134 beats per minute. Okay, so also what we've got in there is one of the most amazing things that we can offer, which is emotional value. So what's the best way to communicate emotional value? Oh, amazing group of IOF corporate fundraisers in the room. What's the best way to communicate emotional value? Stories. Tell stories, awesome, yeah. So in there, you're going to have stories, but stories that really do actually really disturb people and get them emotionally engaged in your charity. So ones where you go really, and what we talk about with some of our charities that we work with, or with all of them, is we say you've got to go into the darkness. Your brand, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. I will keep names all confidential charities, but I had a conversation. Your brand manager is likely to be sitting there saying, "Oh no, sorry, I'm afraid we only show positive pictures of our beneficiaries. Now we don't really have a policy of showing sad children or sad young people or sad parents because we don't think that's really what people want to see." Well, I've got news for you. In corporate partnerships, we have to show them the bad stuff. Because if we don't show them the bad stuff, they're just going to sit there feeling comfortable and sit there doing their business as usual. We need them to do not business as usual, we need them to do something extraordinary because our causes require it. So therefore we recommend you communicate your emotion and you communicate your emotional value. i.e. that when companies work with you, they will have the opportunity to share your stories linked to their business, and actually their consumers will feel even more passionate about buying from that company because that company's brand will feel more meaningful. Make sense? Yeah? So you've got emotional value. You've got your commercial value in there as well. So not only is it about giving them emotional value, but you've got to give them commercial value. So Tony Robbins says, and he's a real expert salesperson, personal development person all around the world, sells loads of stuff. He says that we buy for emotional reasons and then we justify it with logic afterwards. Yeah? Does that make sense, folks? Yeah? So if a company's going to support you or partner with you, they're going to partner with you for the emotional reasons because you told them a story that really connected to them about, you know, this child from China, for example, and they felt that they had to do something about it. But then they've got to go back to their colleagues on their board and explain why it is they've chosen to partner with you at £50,000 per year. So they need some commercial value to communicate back to justify their decision as well. You've got to give them both the emotional and the commercial value. And it can't just be where we just rat it off and it feels like we're going through the paces of, oh, it's positive PR and increased employee motivation and oh, we're going to increase your sales. We can't be like that, folks. We've got to be really excited about it and genuinely mean it when we say it. Inside there, also in your amazing box that you're going to go on to companies, is lots of partnership activities. Some really exciting stuff, some really innovative stuff. And there's lots of choices in there that's going to apply to maybe the sales team and the marketing team or the employees or the media team. So you're going to give them a choice, because inside this box you're going to take out the things that are right for each of these companies. And then also we recommend that you have props. And I'm going to give you an example of that in a moment. And then lastly, what we say is, yes, you're creating this amazing product. It's the place to start, folks. We really recommend it's the place to start. Before you go out there and start talking to companies, you've got to work out what's your product. We recommend that you tailor it for major prospects. You've got to actually do that extra work to tailor it. But one of the really great things you can have in this amazing presentation is going to have other things added on too. So you might have, say, 20 or 30 slides in there, but actually you only ever take 10 of them into a company, for example. But here's an example of a prop that one charity uses. They use this. When they're going to meet with a company, they walk in and they place that on the table. Anybody got any idea what's the charity that uses this as a prop? SolarAid, yeah. Because the story is that they tell is that in a village in Tanzania, these children went to bed. I think it's 13 girls, and during the night their village burned down and all of them died because they had a kerosene lamp on in the tent. So, and then they show a picture of this makeshift headstone which has got all the 13 girls on it. They all died in their early teens, because in Tanzania the thing they use for light at night is a kerosene lamp. Now these things are really poisonous, and also if they're knocked over they cause fires. So what SolarAid say when they meet with companies is they say, what we want to do with you is we want you to help us get rid of that. Anybody get it in the room? Did you get it? Yeah, I got it on the back of my neck. That's the clue that you guys possibly got it too. Yeah? So the question for you after tonight is, what's your kerosene lamp? You've all got one. Some of you might say, oh yeah, but oh God, of course, it's a lot more complicated than that job for you. It's like, no, because we're not SolarAid kerosene now. Of course, everybody says that. But actually, if you really think about it, you've got a kerosene lamp. So what's the thing that you want them? What's the enemy that you want them to help you, or you want them to help you throw rocks at? Yeah? Because they're big, they're gigantic, they can change the game with you. But only if you show them the enemy, right? This is how Marvel comics tell stories, folks. You've got to show them the enemy. And it's awesome to walk in there and just plonk it on the table, because then they can't get away from it. And that's your goal. Making sense? Shall I leave that there? It's a bit for a man. Okay, cool. So, this powerful corporate partnerships product, I cannot tell you, I can tell you a bit, but we worked with a national charity recently, and we built them this, really powerful product. And we got some design involved too. They've got teasers that they can send through the post to secure meetings. They've got props that they can use in a meeting. They've got an icebreaker that they can use. And they've got an incredible presentation and some really innovative and creative and exciting partnership activity, plus also a deadline by which, at that time, if the companies aren't on board, they're going to leave and they're going to miss out. And they're so excited. So I think really, our gift and our suggestion to you is go create that product. Does that help? Yeah? Getting a sense of it. Okay, good. That's number one technique. Yeah? We've got 5 more to go. Do I need to speed up, people? Yes, I probably do. So the second one is, talking of time, is we really recommend, or I really recommend, that you schedule your prospect development time. Now, prospect development time is a really tough thing sometimes for us to do, because actually what I find I sometimes do when I'm in this role is I avoid it. Yeah? Anybody else find sometimes that they avoid doing prospect development? I want to see a show of hands, but be honest with me, folks. Yeah, that's great. So, what we really recommend you do is the best way to avoid this is to schedule it in and make a deal with yourself. And what I did, particularly when I started my career at Unilever, but I've done it throughout, is I always used to do my prospect development at the beginning of the day, because then I'd get it out of the way. Prospect development, doing this at the beginning of the day, is a bit like, you know when you get Christmas dinner? Does anybody else eat their Brussels sprouts first, so then you can eat the rest of enjoy the rest? Yeah, exactly. I love eating my Brussels sprouts first, because then I can enjoy the rest of dinner, because Brussels sprouts are hard. But actually sometimes, interestingly, not as horrible as you think. And that's a bit like prospect development time too. So we really recommend that you schedule it and make it fun. Have fun with it. We're doing this with a client right now, so with a charity right now, and she is having fun on this. And we can tell you that she is getting results. She has secured meetings with her top 2 out of her 10 prospects. And not only that, she had meetings, she pitched them, and she secured partnerships with them. And both of them are big global brands. And she's only a little charity. So she's making it fun. One of the things we did with her is we helped her write a script, so that when she did the call, she knew what she was going to say. And actually, she even had, she said, what do I say if they say, oh, can you just tell me the partnership idea that you want to present? Tell me it now. Then we gave her a way to overcome that obstacle. We said, oh no, we couldn't possibly tell you what the idea is now, because it's such an exciting idea, we need to convey it visually, so therefore we need to come and see you to explain it. So she had that ready in her locker too. And what she does is she books a meeting room for herself. Because as you can imagine, some of us, we sometimes get worried. Anybody else feel this? Sometimes get worried about people are going to be listening into us on the phone. Be thinking, oh God, what is that idiot doing? Why are they talking like that? Why are they shouting? Why are they putting that face? Why are they standing up? And all that sort of stuff. Why are they telling that story? And you just think, this is what we do, especially when, before we get into our 50s. By the time you're 50, folks, you just really stop worrying about this stuff, I promise you. But what I would encourage you to do is stop worrying about it now before you get to 50. So one thing you can do to overcome that, if you are concerned about people listening in, and I really understand it, is book a meeting room. And that way you can do it to your heart's content, and you can shout as loudly as you want. You can stand on the table if you like. If that gives you confidence, then do it. You can stand there and think of your favourite song as you dial. So book a meeting room. And we also say, the key thing is, and this is so important, just like going back to the last product, and this is so important, is the whole thing, when you approach companies, you are not approaching them for money. Do not do that, folks. Yeah, and in fact, if your job title has fundraising in it, and you're about corporate partnerships, then I really recommend you go to your bosses tomorrow and you say, I want to change my job title from corporate fundraising to corporate partnerships, because it's not about money. Of course there's money involved, and that's part of what we want to do. But if you go in there and start talking about money, you're going to scare them. As somebody from National Grid said to me, she said, when charities come in here and start talking about money, it makes me want to run for the hills. These companies are not just big bank accounts, folks. They are incredible resources that can help us change the world, but only if we treat them so. So what we need to do is go in there and actually say, we have a really brilliant partnership opportunity. But you now know you will have, because you're going to have created this amazing product beforehand. Does that make sense? Is anybody else using this? We've got brilliant partnership opportunity approach. Yeah? Does it work? Is it better than asking for money? Yeah? So I really recommend, don't ask them for support if you're offering them a brilliant opportunity. It's much more empowering, because you're realising you're such a great catch as a charity. And the most important thing after these calls and during it is to feel proud of yourself. Because one of the most important things for us as fundraisers right now, in this world of where mental health is just, seems to be much more on our radar, is it's tough being a fundraiser. I think it's tough being a corporate fundraiser. And sometimes you're going through, some really tough mental stuff with the budgets and the pressure and all of that stuff. And actually, we need to really support ourselves. The person that's most likely to increase my self-esteem is me. And the way that I do that is by doing the things that I say I'm going to do, and then giving myself a pat on the back afterwards. As somebody said to me, Lizzie, so smartly from Football Beyond Borders said the other day, getting stuff done feels really good. And it's true, there's nothing better for self-esteem than getting stuff done. Does that resonate for anybody in the room? You know when you say you're going to do the stuff you said you're going to do, and then you do it? What's the feeling like afterwards? It's awesome. It's far better than eating a Snickers bar, even though the Snickers bar felt far more tempting in the first place. Yeah? So really we recommend you schedule it, make it fun, write a script, book a meeting room, call them with brilliant opportunities. And then what we recommend you do is you do this every day. So you schedule it every day. But you just do a little bit often. And what you find is if you do maybe 2 or 3 prospects every day, by the end of the week you'll have done 15 prospects. And then by the end of that month, you'll have done 60 prospects. By the end of the year, you'll have done 80 prospects. That's incredible. That's what growth looks like, is taking little baby steps each day, and then it gradually adds up. And if you take baby steps each day, then you better stand by for the quantum leap, because it's going to come. And one of the people that we would say was we're working with a really quite small charity right now. Again, I can't say who it is, but she's just landed a £500,000 partnership over 3 years. Incredible. And it's a charity that hardly anybody in this room will have heard of, because she's going and doing it on a daily basis. Is that helpful, folks? Yeah? So let's do that prospect development time. Schedule it in. And I like the booking a room, because it's really working for the person I was talking about. Okay. So the second area, which is about colleagues, is we're going back to that favourite topic of about your product. And what we really recommend you do is when you're building your corporate product, is you involve your colleagues. And it's a really brilliant thing to do is to get out Sharpies and post-it notes at this stage and walk on a glass wall like the people in the window. I'm not joking, actually, that is a really brilliant way to work. But what you want to do is invite them along to a product development session. Invite them along to a workshop, which is your partnership product workshop, because you want their input. Because the biggest mistake, folks, we can make when we're trying to, partner with giants is to somehow try and do it on our own. And you've really got to involve your colleagues with it too. So what we recommend you do is invite them along and get them to share their insights and their thoughts. And in particular, the main thing to do at this session is to get them to tell stories. Because when you tell stories and you share stories, what you're listening out for is the magical detail. Guess what the magical detail was in Solar Aid's story? The kerosene lamp that killed 13 kids. So therefore they discovered the thing that they were going to use in their products that was going to genuinely change stuff. So you're listening out for that magic detail that then you can go away and really build and build and build until it becomes tantalising and powerful. The other thing you want them to get you to share is maybe what are their ideas for partnership activity they could do. Or when you think about what's the really big commercial reason as to why companies should partner with your charity, what do they think that is? Now I did this with such a diversity of ideas. You're going to separate yourself out from most fundraisers and most colleagues because you're going to be so collaborative. And actually then they're going to be the ones who will help you not only pitch this stuff, but also deliver it when you come back and win it as well. And they will, believe me, you're going to get some brilliant ideas. But this is the best way to involve your colleagues, is to co-create stuff with them. And co-creating the product is one of the best ways too. When at Alzheimer Society, when we started involving our colleagues, that was when the big shift came for us. Probably involving your colleagues is possibly the single biggest factor that's going to determine your corporate partnership success. It's not about the market out there, it's about how much on board your colleagues. Because after all, companies don't want to partner with you individually, they want to partner with your whole charity. They don't want to partner with you individually, they want to make a difference to your beneficiaries. Is that making sense, folks? Yeah? So call a session to do a workshop, a partnership product workshop, and invite them along to it. And bring really good to bring some sort of chocolate and snacks and things like that, just to entice them along. I know that Maggie from what's it, Teens and Toddlers, is that right? Or now Power 2, yeah, Maggie bought popcorn, so she had popcorn just to get everybody along. They really love it, they just think you're the wackiest people ever, but you're creating something incredible. And then what we also suggest with your colleagues is you also involve your colleagues and your beneficiaries in your meetings with companies. And again, this was a shift for us at Alzheimer Society. What can happen in charities, I think, with the corporate partnerships team, and I know this because I've done it myself, is we think, just involving other people is just going to be such a bind. And, they're really difficult. I don't think they're fully on board with what we're doing. And it means I've got to check their diaries too, where if I just go and I pitch it on my own, it's going to be so much quicker, and I'll get the job done so much faster. Am I talking about anybody else in the room here, or are you guys all collaborators? Do you all take your colleagues along to corporate meetings with you? No. Okay, okay. So I really recommend you do this, and you actually get quite courageous about who you invite. It's a brilliant way of taking them along. But also, what can really be powerful is to take along not just your colleagues, but also take your beneficiaries as well. Now obviously for some of you that might be difficult or not, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to physically take them with you. You can actually take them into the room on video. So let me zoom back to the meeting where my heart rate was 127 in this meeting with this big company. I said their name then. And our beads of sweat were coming in, but I actually thought, no Jonathan, you're going to be okay. Because you've got this really brilliant product that you're going to offer them. You've got something really exciting. Your charity is a great catch. And also we've done our work. But also more than anything, I had my thing that I was going to start the meeting with, which I knew was the way to start the meeting and was going to be my go-to. And what I had was actually been to go and see a beneficiary to create a new film. And her name is Caroline, I think. And for the purpose of this year's, and Caroline has an incredible story to tell. Caroline's from Liverpool, and one of the things that Caroline tells in her story is that she got married, and when she was about to go on their honeymoon, she discovered that she was pregnant. And like, as you can imagine, the excitement of being pregnant and, babies coming. And then, after, I think about 5 weeks, she lost the baby. She's telling us on this video to these women in this room. And she went to see the doctors and they said, well, there's no reason why this happened, just go and try again. So she tried again, and she lost the baby. In fact, she had 6 miscarriages. And she said, well, what's wrong with it? I said, there's nothing wrong with you, just go and try again. She said, I can't keep trying. And then she found this doctor. She found this doctor of Tommy's in Birmingham, and she went to see her, and she was pioneering some new work. And she somehow managed to persuade her to put her on her new program. And she got pregnant, and she got past that, crucial 12-week period. And then she said, I saw the scan, and you could just see it was a baby. And then the video switched to pictures of her lifting Jude up, because of course she's from Liverpool, so she has to call her child Jude, right? So, and it's just like, and we're all just sitting there crying, because we managed to film Caroline talking about Jude and her baby. I just thought, actually, from here on in, this meeting's going to be a flipping breeze, Jonathan, because I've got them involved. So one of the things to do is to get your beneficiaries in the room with you. But there's something, isn't there, about that? Going to have that meeting, I could easily go and say, well, it's just too much trouble to go and do a new video. Or actually, sometimes what colleagues say to me is, well, we don't need to, we showed them, we told them the story last time, so why, we don't need to go and tell them about the course again this time, but actually we do need to do that bit. And then off the back of that, we had an incredible pitch to them. And I'm pretty certain that that is now turning into a really significant partnership with Tommy's, albeit the beginning was of one, with a really major brand. So it's incredible to involve your colleagues and beneficiaries in meetings to companies, but this kind of stuff takes more preparation. And the film was only 2 minutes long because we're really short on time, so we've got to reach them really quick. So, and then lastly, I'll go on to the last group, which is about companies. And there's something that somebody is saying quite a lot at the moment. Has anybody in here heard of Seth Godin? I'm quite a fan of Seth Godin, so I talk about it quite a lot. So he's a really inspirational marketing man who wears yellow glasses and odd socks and has a bald head and lives in the States. And Seth Godin is amazing. He's written lots of books. His most famous book is called Tribes. Have you now heard of Seth Godin? Yeah? So you heard of that book called Tribes? Anyway, he's talking about, actually, some of the most skillful people in marketing and in sales are people that are learning to see. And what he says from a marketing point of view is you cannot be seen until you learn to see. And he says that in his new book, which is called This is Marketing. And what I encourage you to do with companies is I encourage you to practice learning to see when you look at companies. It's about practicing looking at them, and in particular we're looking for one thing in particular, which is about what are their problems. And what I find is the more I look at them, the more I practice at doing it, the better I get at this. And quite quickly now, you can tell me the name of a company, what industry they're in, and I can have a guess at what their major problems are, and I'll probably be right, even before I've even got to meet with them. So it's a real skill that you can hone, and it's an instinct that you can develop. And it's really important, because the ones that you're particularly looking out for is who are the companies that actually have problems that a partnership with your charity can solve. Because those folks are the companies for whom are really dying to meet with you. Yeah? So they're the ones that you really could provide an incredible partnership with. So to provide an example of a charity that I worked with, so it's a hospice based in Surrey, who are called Phyllis Tuckle Hospice. And one of the things that they did was they were approaching a company called Bridges Estate Agents, and we were trying to work out what's the Bridges Estate Agents problem. What do you think are the problems with estate agents, folks, maybe operating in Surrey? What's the challenges that are facing that business? Can you shout out a bit louder? People don't like estate agents. That's a really good one. Actually, yeah. How do we feel about estate agents? It's a bit of a stigmatised, we have a negative view of estate agents. That's great. So that's a real problem. Any other problems that you think estate agents have? Competition is a very competitive space, and it's really hard to stand out. Now, the other problem that they had for Bridges was actually, one of the challenges estate agents have is they're very short term. They're all about how many houses are we going to sell in this month. But for them, they were also about to have their 25th anniversary the following year. And can you imagine how many ideas they had for their 25th anniversary? None. They had no good ideas for their 25th anniversary. So, Phyllis Tuckle Hospice went and approached them because they realised that actually with all three of those challenges, they could help. If Bridges partnered with Phyllis Tuckle Hospice, then people would go, oh wow, they're not just the estate agent in Surrey, they're the estate agent that care. And the irony of all of this was, Bridges estate agents, for anybody from Surrey in the area, they have heart-shaped sailboards. Yeah? But there's no reason why they have heart-shaped sailboards. But actually when Phyllis Tuckle Hospice went and pitched to them, they had the best reason ever. Because actually, they pitched them an idea called Home is Where the Heart Is. Because those two charities, organisations are supposed to work together. So they then become the more meaningful charity, but also then they became a much more loved charity, and they had a brilliant thing to launch in their 25th anniversary. Now, those two organisations are partnering together forevermore. There's no way that Bridges will leave Phyllis Tuckle Hospice, because their fear is what? What do you think their biggest fear is if they leave Phyllis Tuckle Hospice? One of their competitors will jump into their place. So it's a really brilliant partnership. But what they did was they said, who can help us? And also when you look on the map, that actually the estate agent of Phyllis Tuckle Hospice work in exactly the same area. They cover exactly the same territory. So that's the kind of sweet spot we're looking for. So we're not necessarily going out there looking for all of the big guys. We're going for the ones where we've got a great fit. Either where maybe we know somebody, or maybe there's a really good bit of shared history, or maybe our brand stands for the right thing, or also in particular, look for companies for whom they have problems that your charity could really help them solve. And then the sweet spot in particular is where they could also help you solve your problems. But actually, most companies can really help us, we know that, right? But it's really great if you kind of recognise, they recognise that actually you picked them out of a massive piece of research of about 100 different companies, and you come just to them because you've isolated them. So, really learn to see companies' problems. I think the other thing that you can learn to see, if you practice this more, and do the kind of thing that you're doing, where you come here, and you go out and you learn, read up on the stuff on the Institute of Fundraising website, and all the different corporate partnerships, discuss. One of the things you learn to see is you learn to see what are the great ideas. You learn to see what's the difference in a really brilliant partnership idea and a really poor one, or what's the difference in a really great partnership and a really poor one, or what's the difference between maybe a great piece of partnership activity or one that's not so good. Does that all make sense, folks? The more we practice looking, the better we get at seeing. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's good. It's about practice. So, and then my last piece of insight, really, so my last technique is you've now got yourself on their level, right? You're now at giant status. And then you get to do the best thing ever, which is the most, skillful bit of corporate partnerships work you can possibly do. And the best thing that we can possibly do is get ourselves and our charity out of the way. This is not about us, folks. Yeah? So Simon Sinek, who wrote a really brilliant book called Start With Why, he said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Yeah? People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. If you haven't read his book or seen his TED Talk, I highly recommend you see it. And therefore what that means is, what they care about is they care about the children that died. They care about the disabled children from China. Or they care about, Caroline, who's had 6 miscarriages. That's the why in our charities. It's not the organisation and about how many different projects we've got, or how many years we've existed, or how many different services we've got, or what our new strapline is, or even what our mission is. You need to get all of that stuff out of the way and get yourself out of the way as well. Because your role is to make the company partner with the beneficiary. It's not about us, even though everybody else in your charity is telling you, it's about us. Aren't we amazing? No! Because we can't do it on our own. So the most wonderful thing you can do is, once you've got yourself up there, on an even level with the company, is you do the most graceful thing you can possibly do, which is you get yourself out of the way, you make a 180-degree shift in your relationship, and you make them the hero. Does that make sense, folks? Yeah? Because you can't solve it without them. Solar Aid cannot get 300 million people out of the dark in sub-Saharan Africa on their own. They need brands. Phyllis Suckle cannot provide hospice care at home without companies. So we need to make them the hero of our story. So we worked with a big children's hospital recently on a pitch they were doing to a giant, and we were going, oh my God, do you really want to go and pitch this company? Because they're enormous. I mean, if we talk about some of the biggest companies, this company is huge. But they had a really brilliant reason to pitch to them. And they created the most incredible pitch. They even went and found somebody who worked at the company who had had their child treated at this children's hospital. And they told that story. So incredible. But when I looked at the pitch that they created, what I found was it was all about them. It was all about, oh yeah, this hospital was founded in X years. It was about leading them. And then this company kind of snuck in at the end of the presentation in the end. And I said, you've just got to turn it all upside down. Make it all about them. And they did. They had the courage and the what's-its to go and do it, yeah? And the company loved it. And now they're partnering with them. They're creating a partnership with them. And it's one of the biggest companies in the UK and one of their first corporate partnerships. Because they had the lack of ego to say it isn't about us, it's about the company. So make the company the hero in all that you do and all that means. I mean, I'm not being prescriptive here, I'm giving you some ideas that you can take on in your own and make them your own. So I'm going to finish up now because I'm sure I've gone above my 20 minutes. I'm not as young as I was. And so here's my key points to take away. So first of all, as you might imagine, I really recommend you create your powerful partnership product. This is the game changer, folks. And I have to say, we're now beginning to create a bit of a queue of charities that want us to work with them on this. It's a busy, competitive world. You've got to stand out. And creating an amazing product is just off the scale. And if you can get a bit of design input into it and some of your colleagues input into it, great. Involve your colleagues. It's going to change the world if you involve them. And I know it takes bravery, and again, it takes humility and this most collaborative attitude. The best partnerships for us to create are the ones internally. How can we possibly create partnerships externally if first we don't create them internally? And then lastly, we make the company the hero. So that's my talk. I hope it's been really insightful for those of you who are new to corporate partnerships. Maybe it's given you some places to start, but for those of you who are already doing it, I hope that it will inspire you and encourage you, enable you to take things onto the next level. And lastly, I'd like to thank everybody for having me here. Thanks to the IOF for having me speak here. And also, I just want to, you've probably seen it, we're doing a course in May, on the 25th and 26th, no, the 15th and 16th of May, is that right? I've got my colleague Royston with me here in the room, so if you want to come talk to either of us about the course afterwards, it's a 2-day course about corporate partnerships and how to take the corporate partnerships onto the next level. And that's it. I think we may have some time for questions. I don't know if I've blown them. 141 now, you see. It's quite right, there's no doctor in the house. Oh, shall I do this bit? So has anybody got any questions? Yes. So when you ask a question, could you say your name and where you're from as well?
Hi, Natasha from Red Pencil, we're an independent consultancy as well. Completely endorse the get everything out of the way, it's not about you, so I think that kind of plays across all fundraising streams and avenues. And kind of on that basis, I was wondering whether you in corporate partnerships had looked at any of the kind of behaviour change theories and practices which in other fundraising streams, particularly around kind of individual giving, I think are beginning to kind of rise to the surface. So while you're creating your kind of awe-inspiring kind of product, had you had the opportunity, or had you actually looked at some of those behaviour change bits which are about putting a values base first before you tell people about the problem?
I think, in all honesty, probably not a lot. I mean, I'm really aware of the sort of the thinking fast and slow stuff that's really at the forefront right now. I think a lot of what we do, because we've got over 50 years experiences, we do use our sort of instincts on that, so hopefully they're so as well. But I think in truth, one of the things that corporate partnerships needs to do a lot more is get far more scientific about the way in which we do go and engage companies. So I hope that we and you guys can do more of that in the future. I think that's really important. Actually, and the only thing I would reflect upon is one of the things we particularly do think about is we get people to, so when charities go and meet with companies, we really encourage you to go to them. And there's a real reason why we do that. Now, it's quite tempting, and I've worked with some charities where actually they think, because they think it's all about them, right? Is they get the companies to come to them. Because after all, it's quicker, it's more convenient that way, and we've got really nice offices, and we can show them our, da-da-da. But actually, there's several reasons for going to do this at their place. One of them is, obviously, it's much harder for them to cancel. Yeah? So that's a really good thing. But another thing is, you get to see, hopefully, possibly inside their corporate culture. And you get to see what is on the wall. And ideally, maybe you get to see the people who are visiting, and you get to see the kind of thing that's on the wall in their office and is being put up by their team. Because I think what you're trying to do is people could be coming from 2 different places. And you can also listen out for this in language as well. Is people that you're talking to in companies will be motivated possibly for one of 2 reasons. One is because they actually realise that they want their life to be meaningful. And they've got to a certain point in their life where they're just worried actually life won't be meaningful. That's one of our greatest fears in life. And therefore then they want to make a difference. And people who want to make a difference have got those pictures up on the wall, or they talk about, the difference they made and the impact, but they talk about the kids or the families. But the ones that actually, where there's another group who actually want to make it all about them looking great and about them getting awards. And I think if you can spot those, where they're kind of doing the big I am, and you can see all their awards, maybe across there, or there's pictures of them in their offices, and they're starting to talk more about what they've achieved rather than about, say, the kids and the families, then you might realise that actually you might want to put more into your presentation about the recognition they're going to get rather than the impacts they're going to make. So I think I managed to somehow say we are doing it a little bit, but by no means enough. Yeah, I think we should do it more. Great question. Anybody else got a question? Yes? Yeah.
Do I say who I am?
Please say who you are and where you're from.
So my name is Mark Beattie Edwards. I'm the Chief Executive of a heritage charity, actually.
Yeah.
The Nautical Archaeology Society, which is a strange one, trying to protect a shipwreck in the Thames Estuary. And the question is about directly approaching the corporate who is potentially doing the damage that's causing the shipwreck to be eroded out and destroyed.
Yeah.
And whether or not there's a possibility of a backlash of a bit like the way the British Museum had Greenpeace standing outside
Yeah.
protesting when they had
Yeah.
an exhibition sponsored by Shell.
Yeah.
Ideally, I can see why they would want to, the
Yeah.
company that's causing the erosion, why they would want to support. But my worry is that if we approach them and we went into partnership with them, we could then get pilloried
Yeah.
for effectively justifying the damage that they're
Yeah.
doing.
And what do you think?
Oh, I'm going to give it a go, I reckon.
Yeah. So your question is?
And my question is my question is your advice, really. Should I give it a go?
Yeah, great. Well, I think the example I would draw upon would be, so say the children are really good at some of this stuff and it comes up big for them. Because for instance with them, they were wanting to partner with a number of these retailers, that were having, maybe factories in Bangladesh, where they're using, child labour possibly in there. And what Save the Children say on this stuff is actually they say, well look, we at some stage we do want to partner with you. And, but once you've got your house in order, and then that's when we can put our names back together. So I think that would be, I think what you can do is you can, the best thing is to be that critical friend first. That company, that charity that gets alongside them and says, actually, as you know, we're a bit of an expert in the damage that you're causing. And if you can prove to us that you've changed your practices and managed to sort it all out and got rid of that, then first of all we're going to, and we can help you also, crucially, we can help you improve your internal systems and your approaches and how it is that you're training your people in doing that. Then we would really encourage that. And then if you do that, then we really think we could do a partnership whereby we could celebrate the difference that you made and the difference that we could make for the Thames Estuary together. But I think there's an invisible bit first that you do behind the scenes whilst they get their house in order. Okay. Anybody else got a question? Yes. So on the end here, sort of fourth row from the front.
Sorry, my name's Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
I hate hearing my voice really loudly.
That's okay. Well, you know what? If you practice doing phone calls in the morning, you'll get used to it. So it's really good. I don't particularly like the sound of my voice either, but it's actually really good to practice doing it and fall in love with the sound of your own voice. Because after all, you're the person that's most likely to love you, the sound of your own voice. So anyway, but that isn't your question, Jenny. Where are you from?
I'm from the British Red Cross.
Okay, awesome.
First time I've worked for a charity where I don't
Yeah.
have to explain what the charity is.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not too
Yeah.
So my question is, once you've identified the sort of the problem that the company has,
Yes.
do you have any advice as to how you might talk to them about it? Say, for example,
Yes.
I might not want to walk into a group of estate agents and say no one likes it.
Yes.
So how would you
I agree. I mean, I think that's, slide number 1, by the way, can we just bring up, God, have you heard the latest, what they're saying about estate agents? No, I think that's a fair point. I think, to be honest, they know it. So you don't actually have to, you don't have to really name it. And you don't have to really sort of take, that, salt and push it into that wound, really. I think that you can allude to it, but I think the way that you would allude to it is by saying that actually we know that you want to be in this place. So if for example, they are an estate agent, we know that Bridges want to be known as the most trusted estate agent in Surrey, for example. Or we know that you want to actually have such a great relationship built on trust with your consumers that actually they stay with you forever. So rather than talking about the problem in that instance, they know what their problem is. You might allude to it gently, but I don't think you really, go for it in that way. But you could say, look, we think we can certainly help you in terms of a customer relationship and a profile point of view. So I think in that instance, you would talk more about the solution rather than the problem. Does that help? Yeah. Have you got something to add to that, Andy? Yeah.
I disagree.
Okay.
Sorry, I might be a bit of a bullshit fundraiser, hence why I grabbed my phone and disagree with the speaker. When I've been doing corporate fundraising, I get the companies to tell me what their problems are, and then I repeat it back to them in their own language. And what I get back from them is, wow, you really understand our business. I'm like, yeah, you just told me everything and I've repeated it back to you.
That's true.
But then you can make them really dwell on their problems and make them feel like, oh God, it's really bad. And then when you offer the amazing partnership, they're like, thank God. But the worse you make them feel at the beginning about the stuff that they already know, the more likely they're wanting to find a solution, which is your charity partnership.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. In fact, we would say when you go and meet with them, so I've forgotten this bit, we would say get them to tell you what their priorities and problems are. So we make that agenda item number one, because actually the best thing you could do at the beginning of the meeting is you need to listen to them, because actually listening to them is the best thing to do. So Mandy's reminded me of a really good approach. But yeah, all I'm saying is I kind of just don't keep pushing it. I think you've established it, they've said it to you, and it is actually really interesting, as Mandy says this, when you do ask a company to share what their problems are, what I find really amazing is they really will tell you, even though my mind says they won't tell you, they actually do. And one of the things we recommend is actually you ask them for that information before you even get to the meeting, because then you can make sure that what you're preparing is really spot on. But get them to repeat it in summary at the beginning, because then you pitch into that space. So Mandy's absolutely right. I think that's time, so we've got to move on. We've got time for one more question, or we're going to go? One more. This person here.
Can I just shout?
No, we'll get you a microphone. You deserve it.
Hello, I'm Amy. I work at Ranny Grove Hospice Care. We provide end-of-life care to adults and children.
Yeah.
Because we're a local charity, I think we shy away from those bigger companies where, let's just look at the local companies. There's no one big will want to work with us because we don't resonate with everybody. Yeah. So how can you confidently approach those big giants?
Yes.
So that they'll support our little charity?
Yeah, well, I think you've got to find out where, how you're still going to be a great partner with them, and about really where you're going to be helpful to them. So I think there will be two instances that I particularly draw upon where you can possibly partner with one of those larger companies, more national companies. I think one is where they've got a really big operation in your area, and that therefore then there's perhaps, for example, a factory or an office that's in your area where for then, motivating employees is a really important thing. And we all know, right, that employee engagement is a really key thing. So that's one area. So if, for example, they're running a factory in a big company, then you could go and partner with them in that shape or form. So that's one level. And I would really encourage that, and you could do that. But I think what you're doing is you're making it in particular about employee engagement. I would say that's the key thing. But then also, potentially what you can do is you could partner with them on a national basis, but that's going to require you to partner with other charities too. And you knew that bit was coming, right, didn't you? Because I can see that from your face. So, and I think this is where, for example, if you got together with a group of other hospices, for example, or with a national hospice movement, then you could potentially go to them with a big idea. And I think one of the things that hospices, for example, or local together to actually go into really national pitches to companies, because where they do those, they really work, because companies love that national feel, national goal, but with a local organisation to help engage them. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Good. Okay, thanks very much, folks.
Thank you, Jonathan. So just so you're aware, all of the speakers that we get here are always as high calibre as Jonathan, and that's saying a lot because I thought that was an excellent speech. And they all give their time for free. So we're very grateful to you for that, Jonathan. Thank you. I want to let you know that we will be doing this event next month. The theme is going to be digital. I am not allowed yet to tell you who the speaker is, but I'd say watch this space. It's the one very exciting, and as you may be aware, if you're in this room today, you're quite lucky because we had a waiting list and not everyone got in, so buy your tickets quickly. Then a couple of just admin things. If you could help us move the chairs, that would be really appreciated. There is going to be food at the back, and we'd welcome you to stay and help yourself to as much food as you can possibly eat. And also, please do stay and talk to each other. As someone who has openly suffered with her mental health, I wanted to remind everyone that today is Time to Talk Day. And the purpose of Time to Talk Day is to talk to people. So if you would like to talk to anyone today, please do. Ask everyone how they're feeling, ask everyone if they're okay, it's okay not to be okay. and more importantly, get to know some wonderful fundraisers, because there's loads of talent in this room. So I hope you've enjoyed this evening, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.